One of the most common questions I'm asked either on my videos or through my Facebook Messenger is, how do you wire up Electrofrog points? How do you use them? And what's the difference between an Electrofrog and an Insulfrog? In this video I'm going to show you how to prepare one for the DCC layout, install it, and also install a Peco point motor to operate the point. The argument over Electrofrog versus the Insulfrog points is raised as long as I can remember. The bottom line is both work. If you want more reliable running of your trains, you probably go for the Electrofrog point, which is a nickel silver frog area here. It's not got a plastic breaker as the Insulfrog one has. This allows you to have a live frog, and it allows more reliable running across the frog, especially with short wheelbase locomotives such as the Class 08. There is no witchcraft involved into wiring up an Electrofrog point. It can be used straight from the box. However, if you wish the live frog along with the actual point blades to be powered as well, you're going to have to do some modifications. I'll show you in this video how to wire it up without doing modifications to the point and with the increased modifications along with the point motor. Okay, looking at the turnout, let's flip it over. We've got a gap section here with exposed rail, which will come in handy if you're doing any modification. You've also got a gap there which has been bridged by two very fine wires. And you've also got this here, which is a wire attached to the frog, which will aid you when fitting polarity motors if modifying the turnout. Now, as I said, you could use this straight from the box if you wish. If I put a diagram on the screen just now, I'll try and explain the principles of the live frog. Now, this diagram here shows the point in a straightforward position, i.e. it's not going away to the right. The point blade is set for a straight route. Now, the red line is the positive and the green line is the negative. At the moment, with the connecting thin wire still in place, the frog is negative voltage. Therefore, it allows the train to cross the turnout and continue along off the right hand side. You'll notice there's insulated rail joints. They are Peco SL11s. They have to be fitted to the edge of the point in the position shown to prevent, as you can see there, the red rail and the green rail shorting. Without this, you'll get an instant short because the track which diverges off to the right of the turnout will have a positive and a negative, and the red one shows where the positive is, and you will get a short. So that's why you put the plastic rail insulators, and they are SL11, and I'll show you that getting fitted to the turnout shortly. So at the moment, the train can come along and continue on its path along the top line. The connecting wires are in place, there is no modification made to the point, there is no chance of any shorts. There's nothing to worry about. Now in the second diagram, the point blades have been switched so the train will go off at the right path, i.e. down towards the bottom right hand side. As you can see, the frog is now changed to positive as well as the point blades, because they are in contact with the top rail, which is the positive red rail, and because the connecting wires are in place, that automatically makes the frog plus voltage. Therefore, as the train comes along from the left, it takes the path on the point blades down towards the bottom right. There is no case where green meets red, because you've got the insulated rail joints in there, the Peco SL11, so the train can continue on its way. I talked about insulated rail joints. These Peco clear transparent plastic are very similar design to fish plates, and they just fit neatly on to the end of the turnout at the frog, the V. You've got to slide them in there. Now, these will prevent any of the signal from the frog going to the rails directly joined to them, which in some cases, depending on which way you flick the turnout, will be the opposite, which would cause a short. That's why you need them on the inside V of your turnout. Now, I talked about not needing to modify it, as I showed you in the diagram there. It can work perfectly well straight from the box. So why modify it, you ask yourself? Well, in the case of the non-modified turnout, the point blade is responsible for changing and powering the frog. In this case, the point is set to straight on, therefore, let's just say here, this was the negative rail. The negative signal would continue along into the frog. So this section would be negative when I'm running my finger. Okay? That's because the signal is continuing past this small bridged area thanks to two small wires. When I then change the turnout, the top rail, which is the positive, then makes contact with the point blade, which in turn powers the frog. This point blade is not in contact with the negative, so it is in all purposes not going to cause a short. It is actually all positive because it's all connected to the upper point blade via these bridged areas. With the unmodified turnout, you are relying on the point blades to transfer the signal to the rest of the point in the frog area. If the turnout blades get dirty, which they will, or maybe you've got paint on them when you're weathering your track, the signal may be interrupted to this frog. Therefore, the reliability of the running is decreased. Right, I've modified this Electrofrog turnout to increase the reliability of the running. Now, what have I done? Well, first off, I've removed these little wires there. There's no bridge on that gap now. Remove them completely, okay? Don't just snip them, haul them out. Then what I've done is I've bridged this area here. Remember when I showed you the unmodified point, there was an exposed part of the rail bottom there. I've bridged these two rails. Let's just say the bottom one was the negative rail. By bridging it, that ensures that this part of the point blade is always negative. It won't contact the frog because I've snipped those wires. The top positive rail has bridged onto the top part of the point blade. Therefore, the point blade will be positive at all times. This no longer therefore relies on the cleanliness of the connection between the point blades. Because this point blade here is always the same signal as this rail, and the top point blade is always the same signal as the top rail, it doesn't matter how dirty the connector is in between the actual blades and the rail, it will always maintain a full signal. Now if you did that and didn't snip the two wires there, you'd get a short, because you'd have the two wires coming in at different signals and meeting at the frog, and it would be a short when the train moves on it as well. You wouldn't be able to operate it. So you have to snip those two wires and remove them and bridge that area there. The third modification I've used is I've attached a wire to the frog wire. I've snipped the excess off and used it here, and I've just soldered a wire. I use blue, green you can use, it doesn't matter what, as long as you stick to the same colour to keep yourself right. And that is now attached to the frog, and that will go into an accessory switch which I will cover in the next clips. Remember, you must maintain, that one's come off, you must maintain the insulators on the inside part of the frog of the turnout. In summary, the modified point works like the diagram on the screen. The current diagram shows the point blade set at the straight on position, so the train will continue and not diverge to the right. The frog is green, which is negative, therefore it's the same as the lower rail, and the train can continue onwards. Note, I have cut the thin wires under the turnout, and I've soldered 2 bonding wires under the turnout to bridge the gap. The insulated rail joints are still in place. This second diagram shows the point blade having been switched. So the upper point blade is now in contact with the plus rail. The frog is now red, which is positive, and the train can now continue on a right hand path without any shorts. Notice again, I've cut the thin wires under the turnout, the bonding bridge wires are still there, and the insulating rail joints are also still in place. The position of the accessory switch, which is attached to a Peco 10E point motor, is at red. So it's actually passing a signal from the positive rail through the switch, which is then connected to the frog to give you that positive frog signal. In the first diagram, it was switched to green, which therefore gave a green signal. It's now time to install the point onto the baseboard and also install the point motor. Before I do any fitting down of the turnout, I've got to drill a hole for the point motor pin to go through. I've drilled a 10.5mm hole. That's more than enough, and that's to obviously line up with this tie bar here with your hole in it. If you're fitting it straight onto the baseboard like that, the chances are some of your ballast would go down that rather large hole, but I'd usually fit cork and make a very slightly smaller hole in the cork so you wouldn't lose much ballast through that hole. You don't want ballast going through the hole and getting in the way of this point motor. Fitting the turnouts to the baseboard can be done one of 2 ways really. One, you just glue it down, or 2, if you turn the point upside down, there'll be small indents, 2 there at the frog and 2 up here at this end. You just poke them through with a little pin vise, and that gives you your holes for your track pins. I like pinning them down, it just gives a bit more flexibility and adjustment during the process. So that would basically go there, and I'd now pin it down. The motor I'm going to use is a PL10E from Peco, and it's got the extended pin, that's what the E stands for, and that's good for thicker baseboards. Even, you know, just standard baseboards, I still go for the 10E. It gives me flexibility to cut it to my chosen size. Then I've got to have a PL9 motor mounting plate, and that goes on to the pins here. Okay, and then there's pins that come through there. They have to be bent into position. Just take a pair of pliers and torque them over. You do that to all 6 of them, and then what you've got is your mounting plate is pretty much bolted to the point motor now. Along with my point motor, I'm looking to install an accessory switch which will shift the polarity of the frog from plus to minus. These are very easy to install. There's a pin obviously protrudes down from the bottom of the motor. There's a small hole. The pin goes in the hole and the accessory switch slots onto the bottom of the point motor. While you're testing, put it in place with some masking tape, but as soon as you know it works, I would just put a bit of super glue and permanently attach both. The accessory switch is very easy to understand. This one on its own, this terminal on its own, will always be going to the frog. So in my case, the blue wire. The two terminals at the left, one will be positive and one will be negative voltage. So for example, if the point is in this position, it will be on the right hand terminal, which will be connected to the frog. If I slide it that way, the left hand terminal will now be connected to the frog. So if that was positive, the frog would now be positive. If that's negative, the frog is now negative. And it just slides back and forward in relation to the movement of the point. Right, that's me pinned the turnout to the baseboard, or the mock-up baseboard. I have fitted the point motor, and if I turn to the side there, you'll see the point motor. Now, that just screws to the underside of the baseboard, and obviously with the switch, you should be able to manually move that switch, and at the same time, it moves the turnout. If you can't move it by hand, there's something wrong. Okay, you've not aligned it correctly, so make sure it works freely with hand movement before you obviously wire it into the system. Now you'll notice these wires, and if I turn the baseboard upside down again, unfortunately you can't do this with the real baseboard, so you just have to kind of get under it and install it from underneath. This is the blue wire from the frog, which is positioned in the terminal on its own there. These two, red for positive, black for negative, are at the other ends of the accessory switch. These then will feed up through the baseboard. I've left a lot of slack there, I wouldn't leave as much slack as that, and they come out there. What I would do now is I'd check I've got my connectors on the accessory switch the correct way around. Say for example this was the red, the positive rail. That means that the frog is at the moment positive, and that means that the switch should be pushed all the way, and I can see that it's all the way across, which means this one is connected, which is the correct one. And if I switch it down, the negative line is now selected by the accessory switch. So if I turn it back, that works out because the negative line is now in contact with the switchblade, which means that would in turn make the frog negative. What I would do with these two wires now, I'd obviously pull them through. I would solder these to a couple of fish plates, which then connect to the end of the turnout here. So then you've got obviously your feeds from the track, which is obviously powered through the DCC system anyway. So it's taking the signal from the track, plus or negative, and connecting it to the accessory switch. It's as simple as that really. All the accessory switch is doing is switching the frog from plus to minus using the simple switch underneath, which mimics the movement of the point motor. There's probably going to be a case on your layout where 2 points will face each other. The same principle will apply. You have to fit the insulated rail joiners to the Frog on both of the turnouts. These then simply slip together, and these inner rails there are insulated, so no conflicting signal can cause a short. Remember also, you need these insulated joints there and there. Nothing difficult, it's just making sure you follow the rules of the insulated rail joiners. I hope you found that useful, and hopefully it's laid to rest some of the fears and anxieties about using Electrofrog points. They really are the best way to go if you want a reliable running model railway, especially if you wire up the Frog and make the amendments and alterations to the point that I did. Fitting the point motor is really an option for modelers. I would fully recommend you do fit point motors. At the end of the day, it saves the hand of God having to reach for the points every time you want to switch course for the train. For a little extra cost, a bit of effort, it's certainly going to increase your enjoyment of the model railway and, as I say, make it a lot more realistic. If you have any questions on what you've seen in this video, please do get in touch. Thanks for watching, cheers. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. My layout's pretty much based on the ScotRail region. If you'd like someone from the network's South East region, however, click on Richard from Everard Junction. The link for his videos are on the screen. He's undergoing a major rebuild of his layout, and he's now started some scenic work. So if you'd like to see what he's up to, check it out. Cheers just now.